The FCA has been regulating the use of technology, presumably for a long time, and particularly AI. Can you tell us historically how you have set about regulating the use of AI and whether the emergence of large language models has changed that practice?
The FCA is technology neutral, so we do not regulate a specific technology. We regulate the conduct of the firms that are within our perimeter, which is always changing and expanding. So we have a vast waterfront. And in terms of our regulation of the firms, so the firms will potentially provide their own assurances, potentially a skilled persons report. So if you think about cybersecurity, which I mentioned earlier, or aspects of trading algorithms, this is something that they will self-certify through the SMCR and the conduct regulation.
Okay, thank you. So when regulating the firms and their activity, how much do you as an organisation need to understand how they are creating or doing that activity? Or do you just seek their reassurance?
So from the data technology and innovation approach, so you'll bear in mind that I'm the technologist as opposed to the supervisor, but from a supervisory approach, what we would want to understand is that the firm has a solid risk management approach. So when you are creating an algorithm, if we're specifically thinking of algorithms, you would need to have sometimes what we call a red teaming approach, where you design the model and you have a second line of defense would certify the model. You would understand both the inputs and the outputs, and you would be able to point to a really robust model risk management framework. So these are the kinds of things that we would be asking firms to demonstrate. And that doesn't change if the algorithms become more complex. You need to, have the accountability and responsibility for any area of the firm that you are responsible for. And whether you've insourced the technology or you've outsourced the technology, you're still accountable for what it does and its impact on consumers.
Okay, but accepting that the technology itself is becoming more advanced, more widespread, and that, I don't know if it's fair to say this, but there is generally an understanding of how the machine learns. It's a black box. Does that approach still work, even where, because you can test a system when you know how it functions, yes. But how do you test it when you're not sure how it might react in a myriad of different circumstances?
So I have some experience with this. So if I lean potentially on my previous experience at a fintech where I was responsible for building AI models, you absolutely can control what goes into a model. And specifically, if we take credit risk management as an example, there's a lot of very robust information that can be put into a model. And you need to understand what those inputs are and oversee them with high quality. And then, of course, in terms of the outcomes of the model, we say it's a black box, but data scientists do have methods. It's called XAI, and there are open source possibilities as well, which I think you touched on earlier in some of in the previous panel. And there are ways to acknowledge which variables have had the most important outcome on the model. So we say it's a black box, but there are techniques within the data science community to look inside the black box.
And that's what you would examine, how they had potentially trained the black box?
The FCA does not audit, in particular, firms' models. They would ask a skilled person if it were necessary to provide a report on that.
Okay, all right, thank you. My last question is, therefore, an increasing degree of expertise is needed to understand how potentially these systems work. Do you have access to the people you need at the FCA? Are there any barriers, and what could we do to improve availability?
I'm very fortunate. I've had the opportunity to establish a new division in the last 2 years. We've grown the Data Technology and Innovation Division to approximately 500 skilled persons. We have 75 in particular in the area of advanced analytics. We're also growing our Leeds Digital Hub in the north. So we've invested quite a lot in skills at the FCA, and that is not just within my division, but across the entirety of the FCA. You might be familiar with our transformation program and being data-led and proactive. So we've done quite a number of things to upskill not just our own teams, but all of the teams across the FCA.